Thank you all for attending this presentation. We have two really wonderful speakers. We have ESPN and Cox up here, and they're going to talk about their playbook of really optimizing their help desk and making it a lot more efficient. But before we get into that, I would like to tell you a little bit about Avatier. We've been growing as a company, 10 cities worldwide. The business is really booming. 93 employees, privately held. But I'm really excited about what we're doing from a software standpoint of view. Probably the most exciting technology that we're introducing. Everybody in the company's all buzzed about it. It's a brand new architecture. We're taking our whole identity and access management suite, which does everything from user provisioning to service catalog. It's kind of an actionable service catalog. So that when you request something, instead of just opening and closing the ticket in the remedy system or the help desk ticketing system, it will actually perform the actions. So we're real excited about that, giving people access to SAP's financial apps or giving people access to the Oracle payroll app or whatever it is people need to do, setting up a Salesforce account, et cetera. But the most exciting thing right now is we're introducing an SSO product to integrate with our password management solution. And what we're excited about this is it's all responsive design, it's all headless, it's all HTML5, and every product that you see from Avatier now is going to be able to run on any platform in the future, very near future, as we start to move to this new migration. So that's enough about Avatier, but we're really excited as a company. It's really interesting times for us. So with that, I'd like to introduce Cynthia. She's going to be talking to you about ESPN. They've been a customer of Avatier for a long time. I think it was the early 2000s. We met a team of people at RSA show in San Francisco, and they invited us out, and they said, Nelson, we have a real interesting problem. We have this problem where Disney owns us, and they have a different AD password policy over there. Their password policy is changing every 45 days, or whatever number it was, and ESPN's changing at another time. Our passwords are always out of sync. So nobody can manage the password sync to check their benefits. If they wanted to go check their benefits on Disney, they needed a different password. They were always out of sync. So they invite us out, and they're like, no vendor has ever left ESPN with their products working. So we come out there for a day. I bring a really good engineer out there, and we start programming this. And we basically have to synchronize a password with ESPN across a bunch of firewalls that we're not supposed to have access to into Disney. So it was kind of a little hackathon type of thing, you know? So the first day, we kind of made some good progress, but we needed to stay another overnight and work on it. We ended up making it all work. And all I remember was they were so happy. They said, look, Avatier is the only company that's ever come out here and left with their product working. And as such, we'll get you on the set of SportsCenter. I thought, okay, that's fair. That works, right? So it was a very good, very interesting way we started off. But Cynthia's going to tell you a little bit more about it.
Thank you very much. As you mentioned, my name's Cynthia. I work for ESPN. I've been employed there for 9 years, and up until recently, I managed our support desk for 5 years. We are located in Bristol, Connecticut. We have offices located worldwide and all over the US with close to 9,000 employees, not including vendors and freelancers who additionally have access into our system. And we are 80% owned by the Walt Disney Company and 20% owned by the Hearst Company. Anybody know what the Hearst Company is? Book publishing company. All right. But we did initially deploy Avatier into our environment within 1 week. We have spent approximately 20 hours of maintenance within a year time period. So pretty low maintenance so far. Password resets are generally the #1 call into your service desk, right? So unlike any other company, that was our biggest need, was to reduce the amount of calls. We initially had 2 different reasons why we needed to bring in password solutions. And Nielsen talked about the first one, which was syncing between our Disney and Corp domains. It was causing havoc for our support desk with the amount of calls, people not being able to log into either Disney or log into ESPN. So they came in and they actually did a syncing between the 2 systems, which now syncs the passwords, which reduced our call volume greatly. So that was a great win from the very beginning. Our help desk is outsourced to a third-party vendor, and we are contractually obligated to keep our help desk calls at a specific number per month. If our numbers are to increase, then they do have the ability to add additional agents to our service desk, which would increase our cost. about 3 years ago, we took our password resets from our data center that closed down, and we moved them to our support desk. We wanted to make sure that we weren't going to increase the numbers of calls coming into the help desk, so we needed to keep that cost down and, again, reduce those calls where Avatier came in to help. Offer a better employee experience. We wanted to be able to do self-service, have the employees have the ability to empower themselves by doing their own password resets, not having to call in, not having to talk to an agent, not having to wait into a queue, but be able to either log in or automatically reset it through our phone system. As ESPN, we're obviously changing and innovation, so we like to try to keep up with the latest trends, technologies, and extremely fast-paced moving. So why did we pick Avatier? Well, we looked at a bunch of different companies, and if you look at Avatier, they do have the biggest booth down here. That's one of my coworkers said to that. He's like, geez, their booth is huge. I'm like, their booth is always huge. So they're obviously a leader in the market, but we looked at a bunch of different password companies, and one of the big selling points for us was the rapid deployments. And as I mentioned earlier, we were able to implement the initial part of Avatier within 1 week. So that was a huge selling point for us. The limited IT administration, the fact that it requires very little overhead and very minimal resources of our company was very appealing to us. The excellent support, the ongoing maintenance, and minimal time that we put into it, and the quick seamless upgrades were all key factors on why we chose Avatier. I want to talk about the relaunch that we did in Avatier. So as we mentioned, he met with Siva, who works in our infrastructure group, and Siva came in and talked about the issues that we had between Disney and ESPN password syncing, and they did the synchronization. And it was great. We were using it for 3-4 years, I think. And I came to HDI last year in Vegas, and it was at the welcome reception. Everybody gets their 2 drink tickets, right? So I had my 2 free drink tickets, and I walked up to the Avatier booth, and I said, we have you guys. We're not even using you like we're supposed to. We don't even do password resets. And Trevor in the back goes, what do you mean? I talked to Siva last week. He said everything's great. And I was like, Siva doesn't run the help desk. He has no idea what we're doing for password solutions. And he feverishly takes out his notebook and he starts writing down all of these requirements that I'm telling him that we need and how we're not doing this, and we're not using this, or not utilizing that. And then I called up my coworker and I warned him that I may have had a couple drinks and ran into the Avatier person, and he was going to be calling us the next week. And sure enough, Trevor followed up, and we relaunched Avatier for the second time last year. Now, the actual upgrade, I think, to get it to the self-service was about 30 minutes. But we probably put in 2 months worth of planning to get to that stage. We wanted to turn on the self-service portal where they could log into the web, set up their security questions, answer their questions. We had to work with our security team to make sure we weren't violating policies, that we were protecting personal information. We needed to get the infrastructure ready, do the upgrade portion, and it was a lot of meetings. It was Corey, I think Corey's here. He was great. He came out. He kind of helped gather all of the key groups into a big meeting, and we kind of hashed it all out, and we came up with a project plan, and we decided that we were going to turn it on for self-service for our help desk. And 2 months later, we launched it in what we do a yearly tech day, and that is when we take half of our technology department and we descend them upon the masses of the employees. And we set up locations in every office around the United States, and we send them out to the employees, and we market any new technologies that we have that we want to talk about, that we want to showcase. We also ask them if they have issues that they haven't called about, and we log tickets and we fix things. And this November, when we did our tech day, our big advertisement was Avatier and the self-service password reset. And within 1 day, we were able to register 1,300 employees, which was phenomenal. So we loaded all of our agents with iPad devices, and we walked around and said, hey, have you registered for this? Let me sign you up. And we literally just signed up as many people as we could, and we talked about the benefits. We talked about the ability to just log in and reset their passwords or call into our IVR system and reset it with a PIN without having to talk to an agent. And that was a great winning story for us. We have about 85% of our employees currently enrolled, which is pretty impressive. I don't really see any numbers higher than that. We average about 500 calls into our help desk, and 50% of those are done either through our IVR self-service system or done through our web portal. So we were able to reduce our password reset and unlock calls about 50%.
Are there any questions out there in the audience? Yes.
So your password reset is via the web. Is it also via the phone system?
Yes, it is.
What type of phone system do you have? What is the?
We're using Avatier right now.
Okay, Avatier.
Yep.
So was there scripting involved? Was that quite involved? Because we use Avatier as well, and it's something that I'm interested in doing.
We actually used a pre-automated script that Avatier provided for us. So we just set up the phone tree option so that when you log in, you have the ability to reset your password. It automatically takes you to the IVR system with the pre-recorded system that they gave us. Yeah. So we didn't have to do any of the scripting.
Halliburton did end up modifying the scripts to make it multilingual. So they did Spanish and I think Portuguese, yeah, for Brazil. So when you dial in, you get an option, which language would you like to continue on. You press that button and then it goes through the appropriate scripts. But everything was flowcharted and scripted out years ago. And it does not only password reset, but it also does RSA, secure ID token reset, as well as you can use voice biometrics. So if you have an RSA token, you can reset your password over the phone that way. Or you could just speak into it. CIBC, which is the largest bank in Canada, uses the voice biometric piece to reset their passwords.
And where did you say your booth was?
It's the big, gigantic, enormous Avatier booth.
iPad registration at a expo. I've heard a lot of, one of the things, the password reset tool is only good as the people are that use it. If no one uses it, no one enrolls into it, then you're not going to get any ROI out of it, right? When we were working with Marriott, they were like, we're going to move it over to HR. Everyone that registers gets a $5 Starbucks card, and they have 220,000 people out of 240,000 people enrolled in the system. So HR took it over, which is kind of a real interesting. You're going to hear something different from Vic. But I've never heard about the iPad registration, which I thought is great. Just walking around, were they using the iPad to actually enroll?
To actually enroll,
so they'd log into Windows on their iPad.
Yeah, we had the page already configured in our bookmarks. So when we would go to them, we would just refresh the page, we'd reload it, we'd have it there, we'd give them the...
Type in their ID, their domain, password.
We would give them the iPad, and then we would just help if they had any questions or got stuck at any point, and that was how we were able to enroll 1,300 people.
Wonderful.
In one day.
Okay, well, thank you. That's wonderful. You'll be back up there later. Yes, you guys. Thank you. Big round of applause. Our next speaker, Vic's a new customer. They've Cox Communications, I think, purchased in October or November last year. Does that sound about right?
Let me just kind of walk you through a little bit about our implementation of Password Station from Avatier. We're not a public company. We are a private company, and so a lot of what you see in the marketplace or on the web is mostly about our products itself. So we're a leading media automotive service company. We really got 4 operating divisions, and the 4 divisions are Cox Communications, which is really a cable company. If you provide web solutions, advertising through that company, we're about the 3rd largest cable company in the US. On the other side, we have the Mannheim Company, and the Mannheim Company is really a vehicle auction company and also provide web solutions. 98% of the used cars that move within the U.S. pass through Mannheim Auction, our company. That auction company is not only in the U.S., it's in Canada, it's in the U.K., Europe, Australia, China, it's globally. The 3rd group we have is AutoTrader. AutoTrader does really the private car sales, and they provide web-based solution as well. And Cox Media Group. We have 80 radio and TV stations across the country. We've got newspapers, digital media company, and then a sales rep company. So that's the composition of Cox Media Group. We're a head office in Atlanta. I manage client operations, and client operation consists of really 3 groups I have under me. The desktop group, the help desk. Last year we implemented a network operations center. So all 3 of those areas I'm responsible for. And so I wanted to give you a lay of the land a little bit. We're about over $15 billion of revenue consolidated. We have over 50,000 employees, so it's a fairly large company. We selected Password Station last year. I think James and Nelson, we were at HDI, and and that's where we kind of learned about the product, and then we brought them in because we've got a fair number of password calls coming through the help desk. When I talked about the different division and operating subsidiaries, they're really independent. They're independently run, own IT shop, entire CEO, CX, all the C-levels that they have, and then we've got corporate sitting on top of all of those. And so when we tried to do this, we're picking a solution that we can leverage across all the divisions. And so what that means is that we've got to go through a fair number of discussions and agreement sessions and everything else before we actually get to deploy the actual software. Deploying the actual software within our environment was probably about 4 weeks. We took a lot of time with legal. We had to get legal policies, ordering hardware, getting all that stand up. That took a fair bit of time. So actually deploying the software was fairly simple. We spend about, I'd say, 0.25 FTE on support, and as we are doing more with the application, that will fluctuate because we're using our internal resource. Similar to ESPN, we have a high number of calls that come into our customer service center. So I'm running about 178,000 calls a year. So that's a fairly large number. And what we really wanted is a solution that is user-friendly. We pay payroll for the entire company out of a single system in corporate. And so what happens is we've got casual users, but they're also not computer savvy. We could have a call from the help desk that come in and we may spend 30 minutes just trying to get the password reset and walk them through to get to see their paycheck. And think about that volume, because a lot of these locations are sort of across the country, and these folks are just doing this just on a casual basis. So it was a real benefit for us to kind of get to that part, because we had a great increased call time at our help desk that we wanted to just automate.
Just to back up that 30 minutes, these are radio stations, right? These are smaller offices. They're multilingual, so it really does take a long time.
The software had to be multi-language because it's a similar thing. We've got these remote locations, these part-time workers that may come in and they don't speak English even. So what they phone into the help desk, that's why some of these calls may take 30 to 45 minutes. It had to be multi-language so they could select a language and walk through what they need to do. But if you think of an auction where you go out and you're buying cars, a lot of the folks that work in the auction don't even have a computer. So what we had to do was set up kiosks within the auction so people can go look at their benefits or look at their paycheck or resetting their password, whatever they're doing. So the solution all had to work within that environment because that's part of our operations within the auction. So why Avatier? I think Avatier was a great partner. We actually brought them out. We really wanted to deploy a software where we can turn this around very quickly. They've given us great support. Their team was very, very knowledgeable, not about their products only, because one of the things, as you can tell, we've got a very complex environment internally when we talk about AD administration and how our network has to talk to our divisional network, and the whole thing is very complex. So they lend a lot of knowledge even in our own environment of how we should be able to set this up. So I think they were a great partner, a great team that kind of got us up and running fairly quickly. So a couple of things here. The solution facts, cost effective, and I want to talk a little bit about that. We looked at several products. We had a homegrown solution, an in-house solution, but it wasn't effective. So we kind of looked at different products. We probably looked at about 4 or 5 products before we selected Avatier. We are a very, very big Oracle shop, and we've gone down, and we're still going down parts of the OIM path in looking at trying to implement Oracle Identity Management. But we selected Avatier because of one thing. When we looked at the costs for license and support for password reset between Oracle and other products, and I bring Oracle up because we're an Oracle shop, we selected Avatier because it was much cheaper than an Oracle solution. Ease of use. I can't emphasize this. This is probably one of the key factor for us, is that we wanted something that's easy to use, because if it wasn't, we would still get the call at the help desk, right? Because remember, these are casual users. They're across the country, and they'll phone us just because they want to see their benefits or paychecks or whatever they're doing. So user-friendliness, it was very user-friendly. We did a password self-service. One of the things we also wanted to do was we wanted to be able to increase the number of options that they can select this. Because one of the things that we kind of put it everywhere, so we put it in our DMZ, so we can access it from the web internally, we can access it external, we're just coming in from that URL, we can access it from the phone. So one of the things we talk a lot about was when we were selecting a product, we really wanted an IVR option because we know that these are casual users. If it's anything they had carrying around, they had a phone. And so what they can do is phone the help desk and go to the IVR option and reset their password. And it's really a really nice functionality for us. The way we architect it is that they phone the same help desk number. We've got skill-based routing on our front end of our help desk. And so when they pick password reset, it actually puts them into the IVR component because we wanted to keep the experience to the user continuous. We didn't want to kick them off and then they had to phone back again. So IVR was very important to us. Multiple domain and password reset. If you think about how we are architect, like I said, we're independent. So every operating company has their own branded portal, internal, and their own network, right? And then the user has to come to a corporate portal for all the corporate things that we do for them. And we have our own portal, and we have our own network and domain. So one of the things when we looked at, I'll pick an Oracle again, and it's not like because we're an Oracle shop, they had very difficult time in trying to set up a multiple domain because what we're saying is really if you reset your password at the corporate level, we will reset it all the way into your operating network and your portal. So you have one password across that domain from the corporate and the operating subsidiaries. We don't want the user, they're phoning the same help desk I'm supporting for the division, for a divisional issue, and they're phoning us for their corporate needs as well. So I wanted to be able to keep it in sync because I wanted to avoid the call. We wanted something as simple as possible for the end user. And our goal is really, as an organization, is really to shift the costs. So what we're trying to do in our organization is to automate any of the routine kinds of help desk calls that we're getting. So we can free up capacity to go to the level 2 teams and level 3 teams and document and understand the things that we can move from those teams back to the help desk. And the reason for that is a couple things. The lower costs, it's customer satisfaction. Because I surely like when I phone in and somebody answers the phone and they're able to resolve my issue. I'm much happier than them taking a ticket and pass it to level 2. So we're slowly trying to shift, we're going to offload this capacity, but how do we shift work from the level 2 and level 3 on? And so we're really working about how do we demonstrate that to our CIO or our CFO to show the business value. What we want to be able to do is to say, hey, if we reduce this by 25%, what I want to be able to show is that the password station is kind of trending upwards. At some point it'll get flat, and there's the cost for that. And I should be able to show at the help desk that that number of calls has reduced. And that's the value. And then the next part is, how do I show the value of the additional work that we brought into the help desk? We did do the GINA credential, and what really that means is when you log into your PC, that as you click on it from that Windows ID, it drops you into Avatier for you to reset your password, and then it syncs it across the application. So that's the GINA credential. And we are using the help desk because one of the other problems we had, which I didn't talk about earlier, is that we have a fair bit of contract workforce across the organization. So how do you validate it? We're using Avatier to do the password reset, but we're using those questions that we established. They have to be able to answer 2 out of the 3 questions that they set up initially, and then we'll reset their password and then kind of walk them through it. So that was something that we really liked. We started in October. And we are really now about 3 months after our initial deployment. And we deployed it in our corporate environment, which is about 1,000 people. And we did something a little bit different than ESPN because the key to this is that you have to get enrollment up. And if you don't, then it's the same thing. They're going to phone you. So now there's a little bit of a culture shift that we had to make. So the thing that we did in corporate to make sure that we did drive the enrollment up, we worked with every department head and identify the people that didn't register and did some targeting communications. And we were able to drive that enrollment up to about 90%. So that's where we are. We're going to continue leveraging the product because I think it's got great value at our service desk.
So any questions that you guys have?
Do you guys have any external penetration testing data to validate against the security aspect? It sounded like you had some security concerns.
From a vendor perspective, to get Salesforce certified to be in the Salesforce store, we went through KPMG, did a full security code scan on the application, and to get into the approved products list for the United States Air Force, we went through 300 or 400,000 types of scans on the product itself. So I think the website says military grade password management. It's not just marketing. Good question. And then from a lot of people are they're not just exposing the web IIS server out on the internet. No. They're usually putting it behind a proxy.
Yeah,
right?
we're behind a firewall on our side.
Exactly. Any other questions?
So in regards to the password resets, are they being logged anywhere?
In the product itself, you can see password reset, unlocks, security threats. You can see a very, very detailed what's been even reset at the help desk.
You have very detailed logs. Think of this as the infrastructure for our product is an N+1 server. So you could have, in the case of Miller Coors, they have several front-end servers. People are ordering $8 billion worth of beer. We're not only tracking the IP address, but we're also tracking the server that they connected to on the load balancer and the session ID. So from a logging standpoint of view, we're really tracking everything. You can even limit it so people don't share their passwords or their questions. We can detect that they're coming from another place on the network within the same time or lock them out and only allow one person really to log into the solution and use it at one time. How about a big round of applause for these people here? Thank you.
Good job.